Hello and welcome back. Today, at a turn of events, we're going to be doing the weekly questionnaire. At a turn of events, the questionnaire did get filled out, even though it wasn't yesterday, but late yesterday it got filled out. So I'm sorry about announcing that today I'd be doing the monetary policy video, but the general rule is that if the questionnaire is filled, 2-3 questions, the max I answer, I will be answering the questionnaire instead of doing anything else because it's the Saturday questionnaire. That's what we call it. Also, to the Christians in the server, I know we have a Muslim majority server. Tomorrow is Pentecost, so I hope you have a nice holiday. With that said, let's get to the Discord. All right, so we're going to start out here on the questionnaire. Well, yeah, before we do that, I gotta welcome the new guy in the server, CZ. He's new, so welcome to him. All right. So, a question coming from Tim here. It says, Rune Fake. In several of your videos, you've mentioned that China has been steadily increasing its gold reserves. You also pointed out that Russia accumulated large amounts of gold before the invasion of Ukraine and later benefited significantly from rising prices and sanctions-related market shifts. Looking at this pattern, it raises an interesting question. Could China also be preparing strategically for a potential conflict involving Taiwan? Some analysts argue that the increasing gold reserves help countries reduce dependence on the dollar, strengthen financial resilience against sanctions, and prepare for geopolitical instability. In that sense, China may be following a similar long-term strategy to Russia, not necessarily as proof of military intentions, but as part of broader economic and geopolitical questioning. And he certified it as well. He fucking blueprinted it. Yeah, so that's something Sharker pointed out that's very interesting. Leading up to find Chinese gold reserves. Find a good picture. Look at this shit. This is absolutely fucking insane. How much gold China's been buying. When you look at it like this, you can make the argument that this is their way of at least preparing for a potential confrontation with Taiwan. This is exactly what Russia did. So Russia started mass buying gold before the invasion of Ukraine, as you framed it. And after they invaded, after the war broke out, they started selling off gold. And they still are. They're selling off gold to cover any deficits that are in their budget right now. Because they're spending a lot of money on the conflict in Ukraine. The different from how Ukraine is doing it, Ukraine is doing forced mobilization. So just taking people off the streets, putting them to the front line. Russia is relying on volunteers. These are called kontraktniki. Those guys receive very high salaries, even comparative to Western economies, compared to salaries here in Norway. And when you have 700,000-800,000 of those, like Russia has, that have signed contracts on renewals with bonuses each time, 3 months, 6 months, and 1-year contracts, it is very expensive to maintain that. In addition to the lowering of unemployment, which Russia has seen, Russian unemployment, look at that. Is at 2%, 2.2%. That's not U5 though. It's actually a bit higher if you look at it in a complete sense. It's probably more like, generally going to U5, you can double it. So if we're going to U6, maybe let's say 4.5%. 3.2 even at U6 is what it's saying here. That's very low overall unemployment rate. So what you can conclude with that is that good. Yes, overall, yes, it's good, but it's so centered in certain industries that you get a labor shortage. So it increases the price of doing certain things for the government as well. So that, like, for example, building infrastructure, these projects, the wages are increased past what inflation is at, to a point where it becomes very expensive to do almost anything, which has driven up deficits. You got to be able to separate as well the difference between the debt and the deficit. Debt is what a country owes, deficit is what a country spends relative to what it has in income. So if a country spends more than it gains, spending is here, income is here, that in between is the deficit. So if they spend 100 billion more than they make a year, their deficit is at 100 billion. Now, with that deficit Russia is in right now and has been rolling in for like 4 years, over 4 years, they've been selling gold to compensate for it. Now, China has been doing the same in a lot of manners. But China is a bit different. And also, Sharker is the one that pointed this out, actually. He is the one that pointed out Taiwan, not me or Jimmy. But yeah, China has economic motives as well, for certain. For example, de-dollarization, as you did mention that in your question. They don't want to have any reliance on the United States. They are main rivals, geopolitical rivals in the world. They're the biggest economies in the world. They're constantly at a rivalry. That there are no friendly relations between those countries, only at a surface level. At a real level, no. Beyond that, you have currency manipulation from China, theft of intellectual property, trade deficit issues, and many, many other things, like, for example, fentanyl coming from China, biological warfare against the United States. But besides all of that, they're also doing things like this, buying up gold to reduce their dependence on the dollar. But it could also be seen as, yes, a potential one that China could use in the case of an invasion into Taiwan. But it's very hard to predict those types of things. We don't know. It would be really crazy, though, if we got the Ukraine war, Iran war, Israel going into Lebanon, and we get the Taiwan war at the same time. I mean, Kim Jong-un might as well fucking just take South Korea at that point, at the same time. I mean, why not? The world's on fire at that point. So yeah, they could be doing that. It is possible. It is not implausible at all. And it's very interesting. So we'll just have to observe that. I try to take the trading lens for things. So keep in mind here that the bearish movement for gold never lasts that long a lot due to China. Just solely fucking China. Even institutional plays like I talk about, they can't beat the Chinese government, the biggest economy in the world. They can't beat that. Moving on to the question from Sharker. Oh yeah, as well to me, if you got any other questions. Suppressed homosexual rage he has. Oh, you said it, not me, bro. If you got any more questions regarding it to me, feel free to ask that. I'll answer that. So coming here from Sharker, or just Shark now maybe. Can you talk more about TP extensions? What's the best way to do them? When should I extend my TP and by how much? What's the most efficient approach? Sometimes I feel like I move my TP too much, but other times the price just slams into it when I only move it by a little. So I'm going to use some practical examples here. So at baseline, so this is a trade I posted. If you guys remember that, it was an 8-hour long entry CR. For a trade like this, I'm not going to draw it out. A trade like this, you should be moving your TP up if you're intending on doing that at all. First of all, let me say that TP extensions are optional. It's not mandatory. What is really mandatory, what is really important is that you move your sell loss. So moving into BE and getting that lock is when you can start to think about TP extensions. Before that, I wouldn't want to do that. That's rule number one. So if you have a notebook or anything like that, No TP extensions before a lock. None of that. Rule number 2, don't just do it at random. Don't, because that will get emotionally based at some point. Don't just sit there and think it might be able to move a little bit higher, or no, that's too high. Don't sit there like that. Have a set metric for it. Let's say an extension for you is 0.1. So every time you do an extension, it goes to 1.8. It goes to exactly 1.9, 2.0. You get the point. So that's rule number 2. Have set extensions. And here comes the important part. Here comes the last rule. Have your max number of extensions. That is a way to curb the greed that comes with it, the emotional aspect, and for you to overextending. I mean, you should never chase dreamers. We talked about that as well. You shouldn't have trades over 5%. That's what we call a full hit with my strat. If you want to go off and do your own strat, you can do that. But with my strat, anything more than a full hit is invalid. So have a lock, right? Before you start moving TP. Second of all, don't just make it something you do at random. Have a set number that it goes by. Maybe an extension to you is 25 points. So you go 1.75 next time. And then you go 2.0. And then you go 2.25. You get me. Mine is 0.5. I do rather long extensions when I first do them. And you got to get over the emotional aspect of it smashing back to BE as being something bad, because a lock is a lock. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is nothing bad. So at that point, you're just playing with how much money you can make. So don't worry about that too much. But with those 3 rules, you should be pretty good to go. That's how I do it. And that's how I found it to function. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I don't think I've ever touched on that before. So again, let it hit BE. Have a set number for your extensions, 10 points, 15 points, it doesn't matter. And have a max number of extensions that you do. Personally, I don't do more than I'd say, or actually, I'll relate to your strat. For example, since you're struggling with it now, say you do max 1 extension. Let that run for a while, because I know you're doing okay, Shark. Let that run for a while. And those extensions are always the same. If that goes all right for a while, do 2, then do 3, right? And then eventually, when you get to that point of 3, you do max 3 extensions per trade. And if you're doing 0.1, very conservatively, that's a 0.3% increase at max that you can do. The reason behind all of this is because you might have noticed, I've noticed this very well. You need these set parameters and rules of in certain near autistic way of doing things, because you never get smarter after you've entered the trade. Never. That never happens. You just get dumber, bro. You get emotional, you want money, you get greedy, you get scared. You get dumber. You're the smartest before you enter the trade, because you know the setup. You know what you're doing. You know CRs work. I know you're somewhat profitable, Sharker. You know it works. But beyond that, when you've entered, you're now emotionally invested in it as well, because your capital is in it. So with those set rules, I recommend writing that down, having some kind of notebook, and doing it that way. I think you should have a lot more success. Beyond that, just look for strong movement. Look how the trade is doing. Look for previous volume areas. See if it breaks cleanly through that. Other potential areas that could have been SR zones like this. You can see it is already reacting here, so I would have been critical extending beyond there. And when you're doing TP extensions and it is at BE, this is not mandatory, but I mean, why not move BE into profit as well? So nothing can go wrong. If the worst case scenario is that you get a 0.5 win and you still somehow react negatively to that, your trading psychology is already off base. And that is the issue, not the TP. So with that said, I hope that answers your question, Sharker. I hope that is sufficient. If not, feel free to ask me anything else in the Discord. I'll be answering that. I'm always active in this. Know what I do. Suppress homosexual rage in Russian. So it's the same. And we have rules here. What does it say? English only, huh? Well. We caught a delinquent on live. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys for watching. That is the questionnaire. Again, if you like this type of content, if you like the videos, if you like finance, if you're into all that, feel free to hop in the Discord. It'll be linked in the description below. With that said, thank you guys for watching. And have a good day. Hope you Christians enjoy Pentecost. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow or Monday, we're going to SR redraw. But I really want to get that monetary policy explained video out as well. So thank you guys. Bye-bye.